The world of books is a changing one. More and more of us are choosing to download digital books to read on e-readers or tablets. Many bookshops are struggling to stay open, and some people believe that the future of printed books is under threat. But however much the way that we read changes, there's one thing that stays the same. Nothing beats a good story. Whether you enjoy fiction or non-fiction, sci-fi, fantasy, thrillers or crime novels, there are some universal elements that make a good story. But they're not always easy to define. So, what do you think makes a good story?
I think suspense is always something for me. I like short sentences and something that would keep me on the edge of my seat and me waiting to read the next paragraph and not being able to put it down.
For me, a good story is one that sort of transports me to another place. A little bit of romance, a little bit of mystery, I suppose, is always good for a story. Something that makes you want to keep reading and not put it down.
It needs to have a great plot, it needs to be exciting and keep you wanting to turn the page and keep reading, but also it's really important that the writing itself is good. So I like to have lots of character description and character development, and place description is also a good thing.
But even if we think that we know what makes a good read, how many of us have really considered how you capture all these elements and turn them into a novel that grips the reader from the first page to the last? What does it take to write a successful novel? The saying goes that everybody has one novel in them, but how many people believe that is true? Do you think that you could ever write a novel?
That would be amazing. I would love to write a novel. I think you probably have to have a really good idea. It'd be a lot of work, but one day I'd love to try.
Absolutely not. I am not creative enough, nor am I a good enough writer.
I used to think I wanted to. I used to actually tell people I wanted to, which was a big mistake. So now they ask where my famous novel is. But I don't think I have the time, and I don't think I'm motivated enough to do it. I don't really want to anymore.
I think I could write a novel. I've written a book, but it's not a novel. I wrote a book about the work that I do in communication.
One man who knows exactly what it takes to write a successful novel is Tim Bowler, best-selling author of over 20 books for teenagers and young adults.
I'm Tim Bowler. I'm a professional writer. I write books about people aged 14 or 15 for the most part. I write novels. They vary, of course, my books. I write about lots of different things. I've been described as a writer of dark, brooding stories for teenagers. I've been described as a writer of mystical adventure stories. I've been described as the master of the psychological thriller, which was great.
Tim's first novel, Midget, was published in 1994. In 1997, he won the prestigious Carnegie Medal for his novel River Boy. And in 2010, he published the final volume in his Blade series, an 8-book urban thriller. Tim's work has been translated into many languages, from German to Korean. And while they may have diverse themes, Tim is clear about what all his stories have in common.
For me, stage one, the thing you can't do without is it's got to be a story that keeps the reader reading. I want my readers to miss sleep, miss football, miss food, miss television, miss Facebook for my stories. Even that, you know. I want the readers to just not want to stop until they get to the end.
Today, Tim lives in rural west of England and writes his novels in a small, isolated old stone building known as Tim's Bolt Hole. He has now been writing for over 50 years.
Well, I started when I was very young. I was 5 years old when I wrote my first stories. But by the time I was 19, 20, I realised that writing was not just about playtime, about having fun. It was about something much deeper, for me anyway. And I started writing my first novel just after I left university. And it took me 10 years to write the first book. I was nearly 35 when I finished it, and I wrote a lot of words to end up with a novel which is only 50,000 words long. That one was called Midget, and eventually it was published when I was 40 years old.
So how does Tim go about writing a novel? Where does it all begin? Does he start with a plan?
I'm not a great planner. You find some authors who plan in detail, they write down all the notes about chapter 1, chapter 2, etc. Then they write according to the plan. I'm not one of those. There are lots of writers like me too. For me, I find that doesn't help me. And that's because, for me, the process of writing throws up ideas constantly. I don't really know my characters until I start to write about them. I don't really know where my story wants to go until I start to write it. The first part, the getting it written part, can be quick. The second part, getting it right, can be seemingly endless. I can spend 1/10 of the time getting it written and 9/10 of the time getting it right. But that's just how it is.
Does working in the bolt hole help with the process of writing his novels?
Working in this strange, isolated place is quite interesting for me because I often find that it helps me when I'm stuck because it forces me in upon myself. I can't depend on anybody else. I don't have any distractions. I can't go and watch television or play the piano and pretend I've got something better to do. I've got to stay with the problem.
Tim's books continue to be popular both as physical paperbacks and hardbacks and as digital downloads. And his readers always eagerly anticipate the publication of his newest novel. So is Tim hopeful about the future of stories and the written word?
People often say that they think that the written word is under threat from modern technology, but I just don't think that's true. Technology is with us, whether it's in the form of mobile phones or e-readers or Kindles or whatever. And the way we write, the process in a way has changed. When I first started writing, I used to use an old pencil and a notebook. Now I use a laptop. I also went through a period of using a typewriter. But the essence of storytelling is the same. How you produce the written word doesn't really matter. No one buys a book because of the way it was written. They buy a book because of the end product. And that's what they come to read, the story. And I don't think the written word is under threat at all. It can compete with every other medium that's out there, I think. Stories have been with us for so long that they're always going to be with us, and how they're told won't really matter.